explaining over here now the idea that he started off. What does he say that if you read the Shema without the tefillin, why? What is the connection? So he explained what the idea of the Shema. So the Shema is an excitement. It's a Hislavus. It's a Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. What he went on the Maimer, explaining how the person gathers together all of the koiches to overcome all the negative and turn everything towards Hashem. But then the says that if you read the Shema without the tefillin, it's like bringing a korban without the nosachim, without the libation. So what it's trying to say over here is that Shema is an excitement, but you need the tefillin, which means you need the mitzvahs maisius. That while you're doing the big excitement, and then we'll connect it to mincha v'nesach. So that's what he's going to say now. And this is what they say, that hakoide krishma below tefillin chulu. If you read Shema without tefillin, it's like bringing a mincha or a zevach without the zevach and the oila without mincha nesachim. What is tefillin? Tefillin basically represents all mitzvahs maisius. V'inyan tefillin derech klal, generally speaking, what is the idea of tefillin? Hu klal kol ha-Torah v'mitzvahs maisius. That's the general of all of the Torah and the physical acts, the mitzvahs that we do practically. Why do we say it specifically by tefillin? Ki huksha kol ha-Torah l'tefillin. Because we say that the entire Torah has been equated to tefillin. What does it mean that the Torah is like tefillin? K'may shebe tefillin mulubashim moichin elyonim shebe eses sfiris elyonis. Just like in the tefillin, you have the supreme moichin, chochma, bina, das of Atzilus are from the 10 spheres. So the moichin of the 10 spheres are dressed up betmunes oisios gashmis in these physical letters. So the same thing is the older Torah has to be like tefillin. Who? Kitzorich ha'odom lahashpil atzmai v'loymar. Am I reading correctly? Hod lahashpil atzmai v'loymar. So just like the tefillin, what do you mean? Huksha kol ha-Torah l'tefillin. Just like the tefillin, we see that the moichin elyonim dress up in gashmis. So a person needs to a person needs to lower himself and to say, Dai le'eved liyois kirabe, that it's sufficient for the servant to be like the master. If the master comes down into the physical letters of the tefillin, so the master in his avodah, the yid, should be like Hashem, v'lasis mochen l'shivtoi, to make a place for Hashem to sit, to dwell, liyis loy dira b'tachtonim, to make for Hashem a dwelling place in the lower world. The Hainu, how was he doing this in the physical matters? B'mishnah, b'mikra, mishnah, v'talmud, by the Chumash, the Mishnah and the Gemara, halachas, the laws, v'agodis, and the agodis, sheheim medabrim minyonim tachtonim gashmi. They speak of physical matters. So you're making Hashem, just like in the tefillin is the gashmis, in the letters you're making for Hashem, in the gashmis from learning things that relate and deal with physical matters. V'hein, and these are the various vessels and vehicles in which we bring down the Ein Sof, to make a dira for him. V'hem kelim is paraphrasing the words from the Megillah. Megillah says there that kelim shoinim v'yein malchus. There are various different kelim. There is the Mishnah, the Talmud Locha, but the Yain Malchus. But what's in there? There is royal wine. There's royal wine in all of these kalim. There is royal wine. There is the Yain Malchus from Shu Eirei Sabar Choam L'Mushbah. That's the Esav. Further, it says Rav Kiyad HaMelech. What does it mean, Rav Kiyad HaMelech? That it's a lot, as is the ability of the king. Shehu inyan hayad hagdoila. Says Yain Malchus Rav. Rav is the yad hagdoila. We said there. So when we say Rav, it's like Yad HaMelech. Shu inyan hayad hagdoila. I'm Ashakosov, said the Ramaschil, that's the small, right? I'm Ashakosov. And so Tisha the Ramaschil in Bechukoisai, the Lake of Parshas Shalach, Apostle Vayar Yisrael. Okamashakosov, Vayar Yisrael, as a Yod Hagedoila, Asher Osa Hashem b'Mitzrayim. So we're talking about Yod. He wants to say, when it says Malchus, Yeh Malchus Rav, it's like the Yad of the Melech, like the hand of the king. The hand of the king means Yad HaGdoila, the great hand. Where do we see Yari Yisroel the Gdoila? Ashros Hashem b'Mitzrayim. He wants to say the great hand and the big hand of Hashem is the fact that from the highest level it can come down into Mitzrayim. Yari Yisroel as Hayod HaGdoila, Ashros Hashem b'Mitzrayim. That the Hashem's greatness is so that it is mispashit even to Mitzrayim. Pirush HaGdoila, what does it mean when we say the great? Yarish HaGdoila. He's pashto, Sasha Nispashto, ad en Keitz V'Tachlis. It's the expansion that it expands to no end and no limits. V'hi anvos nusoi. This is the humility. Asher oso Hashem b'Mitzrayim. That we're saying that Hashem did this in Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, he did this. Pirush, he made Hashem in Mitzrayim, the level of Yud Kei Vav Kei of Hashem in Mitzrayim. Pirush, Kippor v'oso b'chinas Shem Havaya afilu beretz Mitzrayim. That he impacted and he made the name of Havaya, that even in Eretz Mitzrayim, Asher osa Hashem b'Mitzrayim. That's the Yod HaGdoila. What does it mean that it's Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim is the level of boundaries and limitations. So still, the Eibishter comes down, the Yod HaGdoila comes down in these Gashmizdika matters, all matters of the Lochas of Zroim, talks about things that you plant, or you talk about Moyed, the holidays, Chulu. They talk about the physical world. Small letters now. So look what is written. Dibra Maschil by Yari Yisrael, as a Degdoilo. B'Torah Parshas B'Shalach. I'm Ashakosum Dibra Maschil by Yom Hashmini Atzeres b'Pirush Zeh Yom Oso Hashem. I'm Ashakosum Dibra Maschil Lechcha Me'artzcha. U'Dibra Maschil Bosi Legani Gabe Orisi Moiri. So Pirush Hayad HaGedoila Yesh Loimar. We can say, explaining the word of the meaning of the Hayad HaGedoila. So it says Yesh Loimar Al Derech Mashakosum B'Idra Zutra. What is written in the Idra Zutra, that's a part of the Zohar called the Idra Zutra. Shehachochma melabeshes libchinas chesed ilah. You have the idea that Chochma dresses up the level of chesed ilah. So you have the chesed of Atzilus that is being dressed up by Chochma. That makes it b'chinas v'rav chesed. So you have like chesed, it makes it lots of chesed. That's when Chochmah dresses up. Chesed, we know, and the Gevurah, there's the Yad Yamin and Yad Shmel, the two. the two hands. So the Yad HaGedola means when Chesed gets from Chochmah, makes it Rav Chesed, that's the Yod HaGedola. Then it's a big hand. Then the right hand, the Chesed, is big. And from this level, from the Yad HaGedola, which comes to Chesed from Chochmah, so that brings about that they should also expand the Chochmah law also to below, as said before, into Mitzrayim, to bring it down to Mitzrayim. So we know that you learn Gashmis, you learn Torah, you do mitzvahs like Tefillin, all Gashmis. But the Alter Rebbe adds more now. Not only when you're learning Torah do you bring down the Ein Sof, afilu ba'asokim, u'masomata, even in business. And the giving and take, when you're busy, im hu noisen, v'noisen be'amuno, if you are handling, you are carrying and giving. In other words, you're doing business honestly. Hare olam zeh chesed yiboneh. So this world is built with chesed. That's what we say. The olam chesed yiboneh says this world is built, gets chesed in it because it's done in an honest way, which means basically that we draw down the level of the Yad HaGedolah. We said before, the level of chesed, the level of Yad comes to the world. V'gam achar kach, also afterwards, Yitein tzedakah miyigiyah. Then he gives tzedakah from his effort. Shehu mimidas hachesed, which is from the level of the measure of kindness. V'hu anaf hachochma, and that is a branch of chochma. The chesed is a branch from the chochma. K'moshe kosu moirid hatol mechalkel chayim b'chesed. Hashem brings down the dew, and then He supports life with kindness. So apparently, again, over here in this pasuk, this is from the davening. Over here, it seems like the moirid hatol, the dew, has to do with the level of chokhmah, and then you have the chesed, I think. But there's another pasuk, k'moi, like we say, chokhmah. And also, there's another reason why it's a branch of Chochmah, is just like when a person has Chochmah, it gives him life. Without Chochmah, there's no. The pasuk says, Chochmah t'chayehu baleho, those who own Chochmah, it gives them life. Kach b'tzedakah, so Chesed also. Shenoisen la'oni, mechaye nafshei. You vitalize, you give his soul, you're mechayim. So this is all in the physical level that you have come down into Gashmis, into business, into work, giving tzedakah. However, you need to first have the level of Krishma excitement, and then you can get to the second step to bring down into the Gashmis the Ein Sof, whether it's the learning of Torah or even work. Rakim Yosim Elov Liba Ruach Elov Riba Rucha Nishmose Elov Yasef. If you put your heart to Hashem, and then you get the Ruach and Neshama from Hashem, as we learned earlier, Maimer, B'Kriya Shema. So when you do it, when you read the Shema Canal, as we said before, Azai, then the Ruach, I see Ruach, B'amshich Ruach. So the Spirit brings with it another Spirit, draws down the Spirit. In other words, if you turn to Hashem for the excitement, that's when the Spirit comes down from above. So that Hashem Echad should be resting also in the Torah and the physical mitzvahs. Save the Maschil, L'chein Emer, B'nei Yisrael. Okay, so now we have two avodas basically. We have the avodah of Krishma, which is the level of Islavus, Nafshei, Elo, Yosim, Elo, Liba, you're turning to Hashem. And then you have the level in which you're Mamshich, the Ein Sof, in your Torah and in the mitzvahs. So he says this is actually a greater avodah, is to be Mamshich Hashem in the mitzvahs even more than the avodah of excitement, the Islavus in Hashem. The idea of this avodah, to draw down Hashem's blessed dwelling place in the world below. He lemailo mailo mimadregis is his lavus anikro shem gatin levat. That is higher and higher than the level of excitement, his lavus, which is only called gatfin. It's called wings. They are wings. Wings is not the bird itself. That's the wing that help the bird fly. But the bird, the goof is not. So the bringing Hashem into this world, that's the bird. That's the body. The wings are this is higher. What's the reason? Because in love of Hashem, it is always involves the person. It's always his mitzias. There's always a yesh over there. Because there's no shaycha to love Hashem if it's not a level of an entity. But when you talk about bringing down Hashem into the world, that's the level of bittul total. It has to be he has to be imagining, shaping that he's an entity, something by himself, independent. The chinas leiv v'nefesh ha'mislayim. There is a heart and a soul that is being excited. When we talk about the level of ein oid, and we talk about the level of bittul b'mitzias in these cases, which means you totally lose your mitzias legamri, lo yamtzi mokoim la'atzmi klal. Over there, you don't find a place for yourself at all. There is nothing else, no other wishes. You only want, it's not what you want, you only want what the blessed Hashem wants. And the Ratzon Hashem is equal below like above. So it doesn't make a difference to you that you're dealing with Gashmis, that you're bringing down the Gashmis. As long as it's the will of Hashem. Al Parshas Ba'aloischo as we say the Maskeh Elul Avram Chol. Yeah. Hinei Al Zen Nemar, about this we say Soif Ma'aseh B'Machshava Tchila. What comes out the end in action was actually the thought. This is the kavanah. Because in the this level of bringing down Nikra, it's called Eretz Canaan. It's called Eretz Canaan because it's Milushoin Hachnoah B'Hashpolah. It's the level of subduing an Hashpolah. It brings down Ayim HaShekosu, so Dibra HaMaschil, V'yi B'Shalach Parei, V'ayim HaShekosu Posuk, V'yeshiv Yaakov. Which means Shenoifel Umashpil Es Atzmei. Eretz Canaan means a place of subduing, that he falls and he lowers himself. It says that the feet go down into the mavis. So this is a pasuk in Mishlei. Raglo yerdis mavis she'oil tzodeha yitzmoichu. So because you're talking about Gashmisdike things, so it's possible to fall down. Because since he's tied to physical matters, so God forbid you can fall in Gashmis. And by this we say, you have to destroy the evil from amongst you, which means you are involved with the Gashmistic matters because you are dealing with Gashmis. So you have to remove and get rid of the Rami Kibecha. Over there he explains, Yerushalmi says, what is the coin that they phrased along bracha? It's Pesach Mebaruch v'Chosim Mebaruch. If it opens a baruch, ends a baruch. That's in Parshas Beish, Divrei Maschil, L'Hovin Inyan HaBrachos. V'ayin Soif Divrei Maschil, B'yem HaShmini Sholach Gabe, B'yem HaShmini Sholach Gabe V'lifnei Korosei. And U'beParshas V'eira B'bira Pasach Emeir, B'pirush El HaOretz Asher Nososi Es Yodi. So over there, it's all in those Maimorim. Chulu. Okay. Uksiv. So we're saying Kanani means subdue, meaning to bring along into the world. Because it says, Uksiv, the Pasuk says, Ki yaviacho, let us a Kanani chulu. God brings you to the Kanani. And in the Kanani, there's Gedolim, Vatsumimcho, they're strong and powerful than you. So you have to work and subdue all these negative ideas, ukasiv, and also the pasuk says, "V'gam es hatzira yishalach Hashem alekecha bam." God will also send the tzira. That's a kind of a bird, insect. That Hashem says that fight the people in Canaan. Yishalach Hashem bam adavoid hanishor v'nistorim b'necha. So till he's going to destroy anybody that's left over or that hide from you, and the Canaanim will be destroyed to the tzira. He wants to explain Apipnimis Inyonim. What does it mean? We're coming into the Canaan. We're coming into the place where there is Kashmis and there is Taivas. And you got to get rid of Bi'arta Romikir Becha. And you need to be able to, you have the Gedolim Vatsumim. So you got to use the tzira. Hashem sends the tzira. This is how to combat the negativity from the Canaan that you should be able to subdue. So, what is the tzira? What is the do? Razal, our sage blessed memory say, it would blind their eyes on the top, and it would castrate them below. So basically, he's going to explain the both inyonim in avodas Hashem, the avodah of blinding them and misarsing them, so that there should be no typhus. Biru inyan. Hine Amr Razal, our sages, a blessed memory, say, Shemizioson shel chayis, of the sweat of the chayis, those are the malachim that are called chayis in Fanei HaKodesh, Yoitze nahar dinoir al rosh Hashem gehenim. This is the Gemara Chagiga. So from there, the nahar dinoir, that's a river of dinoir, it's a river of gehenim, that's a river of punishment, fire, falls on the head of the evil in Gehenim. That's where in the Gehenim. Okay. Where does it come from? It comes from the sweat. Basically, Pirush Zeya. So he says, what does it mean, Zeya, the sweat? Who eres v'chema. It's the poison and it's the anger. Yirmiyah Chav Gimel Yutes. Okay, so it says Yirmiyah Chav Gimel Yutes. It says Hinei So'oras Hashem Chema Yotzo v'Goymer. So the storm of Hashem, anger went out. So this we see V'Psoilas Shalahem. That's the leftover. The leftovers from the Chayis HaKodesh is that anger or that poison that comes out. What does it mean? The anger and the poison. So he says, this is really, we're talking about malachim. In every world, which means also in the world of the Malachim, if it's the world of Bria, there is the level of Toivara. When we're talking about Rav, we're not talking actually bad. We're talking about there is negativity. Elara, anger. Elara meloshin kas, b'chema. Anger and chema. V'hu inyan chesed u'gvura sheb'chol olamas. This is the idea of chesed and gvura in all elements. Lňikutei Torah, Parshas Preshis, b'inyan pirush eitz hadas tovara. So basically, the gevura, that's the anger, and that's the level of, in every world, that is the pesoilas, that is the anger. So he says, the same thing is the idea by the person who is the olam cotton. Yesh boy gamkein. Yesh boy gamkein. Chinas elu. It also has these levels. So the person also has good and bad. He also has anger in himself. The anger is no good. But if you use the anger to get angry at your Yetzer Hara, then you're using the anger properly. You have to wake up the Gevuras on yourself. He's explaining the Tzira, how to use it for yourself. The Hainu, alarasha boy, on the evil which is in the person, shumesitra the samach mem v'nekveo. That's the Satan, it's called the samach mem, Samael. And the kveo means those who go along with the samach mem. That's the expression. So the person has bad, which comes from the side, the nefesh bahamis comes from the klippas, samach mem v'nekveo. Sheimim Rishoyim. The Samach Mem and Ekveh, those are the Rishoyim. And the person has himself. It will fall on the head of the Rishoyim. That's the Yosef Shalchais we said before. The person should always get the Yetzer Tov to be angry at the Yetzer Hara. Anger yourself at the Yetzer Hara. That is utilizing the anger, utilizing the psoilus, utilizing the gevura, the ra, against your Yetzer Hara. What does it mean always? A person always has the level of anger which comes from the Gevura, because each person has Gevura. There's no person that doesn't have included from good and bad. What is the bad? The bad that we're talking to the person, that is the anger and the chema, everything. It all comes from the bad side. But we want you to use that anger and that chema against your bad side. As he just say, Ra la shamayim v'ra la briyas. I think by Birsha is two Ras. Over there it says he was bad for shamayim, bad for briyas, which means Regis is no good. It's bad for shamayim, it's bad for briyas. Anger is no good for anybody. But we're saying that so that anger he should pour out on the evil that's in him. He should be very angry. He should anger. He'll be very angry. How come I am so? He's angry at himself. Why am I at such a low level? Why am I not doing what is supposed to be done? So where does the person get this level, the arousal for this Gebura, for this anger, that comes from the sweat of the Chayis. That's the excitement that you have in the first parsha of Krishma. So you have this great excitement to Hashem, but it also has the level of Gevuras, angry on yourself. How come I'm not really close to Hashem? That excitement also has Gevuras, strength. That's why he has to pour out his anger and get very upset and angry with the Yetzer Hara with more. Kasher Yamik b'sichle inyan hizbonus b'munus Hashem echad. This is also part of the hizbonus in Hashem echad in the Shema, when he reflects. V'sheisrael olu b'machshava shalachein roitze ledavik machshavte lizkolol be'echad. Wants to include the be'echad. How come he's always not like that? He gets more angry on himself. His anger smokes like when you get angry. Yeshan apoy, he's angry at himself. Even now during davening, how come he didn't have this? So this is what causes him anger, and this is the idea of the Gevuras. Then we'll get to the second part of Shema, as the Rebbe will explain that. We'll continue.